Welcome to my kitchen. Today we'll be making some gluten-free double chocolate cookies. So we're going to start by melting some chocolate chips. So I need a double boiler, which I don't have. So I just use a pan with a little bit of water in the bottom. I have about an inch of water. I have the burner set to about medium-low. And I have just some small bubbles forming. There's a little bit of steam. It's not boiling. It's not really even simmering. It's just very low. And I have 1 cup of chocolate chips in my bowl here, and I'm just going to set this over the water. I'm using a metal bowl so that it doesn't break. You wouldn't want to use something that couldn't withstand the heat. And to this, I need to add 2 tablespoons of ghee. You could also use butter or coconut oil, your preference. You could even use an avocado oil or something along those lines. And we're just going to melt this, and it'll take a little while. We'll just stir it occasionally and see what we get. It'll be nice and drippy. My chocolate chips are stevia sweetened. If you've followed any of my recipes, I use them all the time. They are wonderful, and I encourage you to give them a try and kick that sugar habit you might have. So the chocolate appears to be fully melted. I don't see any chunks of chips in there. So we're going to remove this from its heat and let it cool slightly so that we can add in a few other ingredients. So I'm just going to set that aside, turn the burner off, and while we're waiting for that to cool, I'll put together some of the ingredients we need for the rest of the cookie dough. So I have the ingredients set up and ready to go while our chocolate mixture is cooling. We're going to take a bowl and we are going to add 3/4 of a cup of almond flour to our bowl. 1/3 of a cup of monk fruit. As you know, it's my chosen sweetener. If you choose to use coconut sugar, that would be a nice alternative if you are not caring about your sugar intake at all and watching your blood sugar levels. But do give the monk fruit a try. You might be surprised. If you're using the coconut sugar, though, you may want to increase. I do use much less monk fruit than I would if I had been making these with coconut sugar. And we're going to add 1/4 of a cup of cocoa powder. That is the unsweetened baking cocoa that you use. It is not the cocoa mix that you drink. And I have 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And I'm just going to take a fork and mix this all together, get the lumps out a little bit. Once our dry ingredients are mixed together, we are going to set this aside and pull over our chocolate mixture. As long as it is cool, you can now add the rest of the ingredients. If it is not cool, just hold off and wait a little longer. We don't want to cook the eggs. So I am adding 2 large eggs to the cooled chocolate mixture. But I am also adding the equivalent of 1 egg substitute that I made with flax meal and water. I put 1 cup of 1 cup of water in the blender and 1/4 of a cup of ground flax meal and blend it in the blender for 2 minutes. Now you can use 1/4 of a cup of that to replace an egg. Now, I am not replacing eggs so much in this recipe with my ground flax meal as adding some moisture since I'm using monk fruit. If you're using coconut sugar or granulated regular white sugar, then you would eliminate the Flax Egg Replacement. I'm just using it to add moisture to the recipe. You could also try a different liquid, perhaps some coconut milk. I do like the way these come out with the Flax Meal Egg Replacement, so that's what I'm choosing to use today. So we're just gonna add that to the mixture. And 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And then we're just going to take a spatula and incorporate these ingredients together. Okay, our eggs and vanilla are added into the chocolate and all incorporated. And I should have mentioned too that the eggs were room temperature as well as the Flax Meal Replacement egg. You don't want to add the cold ones to the warm chocolate. Now we're just going to, take my fork out. We're just going to add this to our dry ingredients. And I'm going to choose to use a wooden spoon to mix this. But you could use a handheld blender. You could also put it in your stand mixer, which is what I do many times when I do this recipe, because I just tend to be a little lazy sometimes and it's easier. Alright, our mixture seems to be well mixed. You can see it's very gloppy. So what we will do with this in a few minutes is put it in the freezer. We're going to add a half a cup of Stevia sweetened chocolate chips. You can use regular ones if you like, but the Stevia sweetened ones are just divine. And we're just going to stir these in. If your chocolate mixture was still a bit warm, you would want to wait on this because you don't want to melt the chocolate, but mine is plenty cool, so I can add my chocolate chips here. And so I'm going to now put this in the freezer for about 20 to 30 minutes just to firm it up a little, and then we can bake it in our oven. Okay? So my dough chilled for 20 minutes. You can see it's pretty firm now and not so gloppy. We're just going to take a spoon and grab a little dough and roll it into about a 1-inch ball. Okay? And then you can put it on your baking sheet and flatten it down slightly, like so. And I will continue on with the rest of the cookie dough. Fill the cookie sheet, and I'll flip it around and let you take a look. The cookies are ready to go in the oven. I have the oven preheated to 350 degrees. I'm going to bake the cookies for 12 minutes because I'm using stoneware. If you're using a metal pan, you would probably need to go about 10 minutes. The pans heat up a little quicker. It takes a long time for my stones to heat up and get the cookies going. Okay, here we go. The timer's gone off. Shall we take a look and see what the cookies are doing? Ooh. There we go. They're firm enough to touch, but you certainly cannot remove them off of the cookie sheet, but they do need to cool, not on the cookie sheet. So we are going to slide the parchment paper off of the cookie tray, and I'm just going to slide it up onto my cooling rack, and then I'm just going to bring the legs down on the cooling rack and let them cool. And I'm going to continue on and bake the rest of the dough. And just one mention that if you are not using monk fruit, you probably don't need to flatten your cookies down. They will spread if you're using coconut sugar or something along those lines. The monk fruit tends to keep things a bit firm. So that said, I'm going to bake the rest of my cookies and we'll come back and try them in a little bit. The cookies have cooled, so let's give them a try. So chocolatey and yummy. Oh, and if you're somebody that likes your cookies with a little cream in the middle, whip up some frosting and make like an Oreo sandwich cookie. But they are so yummy. I love chocolate, I love cookies. What a great combination. I'll catch you next time in one of our gluten-free videos. Have a great day.